Hello! Today, let's talk about data loss prevention in teams. We use Teams with colleagues within the organization, with guests and external users. A lot of information is exchanged and shared when we collaborate. Together with George, Michael and Thomas, we'll talk about how we can make sure sensitive information doesn't land into the wrong hands. George will talk about why data loss prevention, or DLP, is so important. Then, our senior security technical specialists, Michael and Thomas, will demo two things. Number one, how to set up a DLP to prevent instant messages containing sensitive information from reaching unintended recipients. And number two, how to protect teams, channels, and the associated sites and files that contain confidential data. Let's get started. George, take it away.
Data loss prevention assists in preventing accidental data loss and oversharing of sensitive info within or outside the organization. Risk management is becoming increasingly difficult for organizations. Keeping up with regulations and standards, minimizing risks while staying productive, and maintaining control of data can be daunting. The first step to manage compliance is to build a strategy. To do that, organizations need to know their data, protect it, and prevent data loss. Microsoft's DLP capabilities span across workloads like Exchange, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, devices, third-party apps, and now to Teams chat and channel messages. Michael, what are the actions one has to take to set up a DLP policy?
Thank you, George. This is the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, your home for managing compliance needs. The first step is to decide the type of sensitive information you want to protect, so we navigate to Data Classification page and select Sensitive Info Types. Is it credit card numbers, passport numbers, financial data? We have over 200 built-in sensitive info types, but you might create your own if you like by pressing the Create Info Type button. So after deciding what is the information that you want to protect, you need to create a DLP policy. To create a DLP policy, you navigate to the Data Loss Prevention page and select Create DLP Policy. Now we should choose a template or create a custom policy. I'm choosing the PCI DSS template that includes credit card number and click Next. I'm putting a name and description. I leave the default one, and for the policy and click Next. And here we see the power of Microsoft Information Protection. We can apply the same policy to different locations in order to protect our sensitive data. It can be exchange outgoing email, sharing through SharePoint or OneDrive, Teams, chat and messages, devices, and third-party cloud apps. To protect Teams files and chat, I'm selecting SharePoint sites, OneDrive, and Teams chat and click Next. Now I select to review the default settings. I select to protect content that is being shared with people outside my organization. I leave default options, but I lower the amount of instances to 1 and click Next. If I want to restrict access, I should select this option, and I can also set override policy, like require a business justification to override, and then click Next. On this page, I can select to turn the policy test mode or turn it on right away or keep it off. I select turn it on right away and click Next. And on the last page, I can review my settings and click Submit button in order to apply the policy. After successfully creating a data loss prevention policy, I'll show you how Teams DLP prevents sharing sensitive information to external guest users. This is a team with 4 external guests, and my user is pasting a credit card number on the chat, here, like that. Almost instantly, I can see that the message is flagged and blocked by the policy. So let's get back to the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center and focus on the reports page. I would like to investigate a bit more on the DLP policy matches, so I click on the View Details. Here I can see how many times my DLP policies are matched, and I can apply filters to focus on specific data or sources. I can also select a per service view, per action view, or per policy view from this drop-down menu. Now I would like to focus on Teams DLP only, so I click on the filters, I remove the other services, and click Apply. On the detail view at the bottom, I can see more details about each event, about the actor, the sensitive information type, and the severity of the event. I can click it and view more details that are useful for my investigation. That was a short video on the reports. Now Thomas will show you how to protect sensitive files in Teams and SharePoint with sensitive labels.
Thank you, Michael. In order to do that, we need to go to Compliance Center and then select Information Protection tab. And here you can define those sensitivity labels using, for example, keywords, regular expressions, or other built-in sensitivity types. In our case, we'll use highly confidential all employees label for this demo. Let's edit this label and I will show you what options are available for you to configure in the label. So of course you can choose the name and the description for the users in the label. Then in order to protect team sites, you need to select groups and sites. Also, we want to protect those files, of course, with encryption inside those team sites, and also we would like to mark the content of the files. For example, to put custom header, footer, or watermark, showing that the file is sensitive and it's protected. Then we need to assign the permissions for the label. In our case, we're using permission for all people in our company to be able to be accessed, but all the external access will be disabled for those team sites. We're using visuals, in our case a footer, classified highly confidential for those files which will be marked. And also auto labeling is a great option if you want to automatically label, for example, content in SharePoint or OneDrive by scanning that content and matching that content with your label. In our case, we'll do a manual classification, so we're not using it here. And then you can define protection settings for groups and sites, meaning what will be the privacy for external user access, and what will be the external sharing options for those team sites. So in my case, this is highly confidential label, so I want those team sites to remain private. So only team owners and members can access this group, and only owners of the teams, for example, can add members. I'm not allowing guests to be added, as you can see here, to that team. For external sharing, I don't want unmanaged devices to be able to access this highly confidential information, so I'm blocking access from those unmanaged devices. And then I'm not allowing this content to be shared externally, so only people in the organization can access this information. So we are creating this label. It's already saved. I just show you how it looks. Let's move to the teams to see how it works from team's perspective. So let's create a new team. Let's create a team from scratch, and you can see that once you configure the labels to be available in Teams, you can select already the label when you create a new team. For example, in our case, highly confidential all employees, and we can choose only private because we restricted a public option for that team. Let's name it, for example, Team 1. Creating the team. And if you remember, we restricted also adding external users to that team site. So if I will try to add some gmail.com user, for example, you see that I'm not able to do that. But if you would like to add some internal user, as Nick, for example, I can freely add it, no problem. So this is how you can put the sensitivity label on the team and have restrictions. So if we are not using the sensitivity label, just creating a private team, you will see that I will be able to add external user without any problem to that team. So let's try to add the same guest user. Yeah, you see that already the option is available. I'm adding this user to the team without any problem. Similarly with file protection, I have one highly confidential Teams site already here created for you. As you can see in the right corner that the team is highly confidential. And if we go to the files section, we can mark those files also as highly confidential. Here you see the first file is already marked as highly confidential, and we restrict basically printing, saving those files as well. So if we go now, once it's loaded, to file options, you will see that printing is not available, and also saving of a file is not available. So this is how you can protect team sites and files in Teams. Back to you, Nick.
When creating the labels and policies, you will see the terms external users and guest users coming up quite often. It's important to understand the difference between them. External users, also known as federated users, are primarily allowed to chat with and call people in other organizations, but they cannot be added to any teams for collaboration. They don't have access to company resources, nor can they exchange files via Teams. If you want to collaborate with someone outside your organization, you invite them as a guest. This way, they will be able to join Teams, see channels, documents, and other associated resources. When someone accepts your invitation to join a team, a guest account will be automatically created in your Azure Active Directory. This is not the case for external users. You've seen how easy it is to set up the necessary policies that protect your data in Teams. These steps should be part of a bigger data loss prevention strategy. As George mentioned at the beginning, ensure you know your data and develop a strategy on how to protect it. Microsoft 365's DLP solution spans across workloads, both Microsoft and third-party, thus preventing the loss of the valuable data your organization handles.